guys, what's going on? Josh here, Uncaged Fighter. So today we're going to talk a little bit, we're just going to give a brief overview of what a keto style diet looks like. And for those of you who are following my channel, you know that my wife just this week, started going on her keto diet. And it's been sticking with it pretty good. And I know some of you wanted to follow along with this, with her diet, and kind of follow along with what she's doing. So just to kind of give you guys a refresher, if you're not already familiar with what a ketogenic diet is, so in its simplest form, right? A ketogenic diet is basically where you limit the amount of carbohydrates that you're consuming to 50 to 20 grams a day, okay? And so, carbohydrates obviously are one of your three main macronutrients, okay? So you have your protein, your fats, and your carbohydrates. What we're limiting here, what we're nearly eliminating most of our carbs from our diet. So the result is that we get the bulk of our nutrition, bulk of our calories for the day from, it ends up being fat. Fat is going to be our primary fuel source, followed up very closely by protein. Okay, so we want to limit that. We want to limit it to between 50 and 20 grams of carbohydrates. Now, some folks find, especially if you're a lot more active, you can definitely get away with that 50 grams. But I think most people are probably going to be a little bit closer to that 20 grams of carbohydrate per day mark. And so you want to keep an eye on that. And one way you can kind of keep an eye on whether or not you actually are in ketosis is by getting yourself some of those the urine test strips, so the keto test strips, and I have a link for that down in the description. You can go ahead and pick yourself up a whole pack of them, and that way you can kind of test yourself daily to make sure that you actually are in ketosis, that you're maintaining these carbohydrate levels. You're not getting you're not getting more than that 50 grams or that 20 grams, whichever one you need to be with. You can start off with 50 grams a day, and if that's just not kicking you into ketosis fast enough, you can slowly lower it down and find what level of carbohydrates your body can tolerate and still stay in ketosis. So that's the main definition for the diet, really. And how you're going to get so that means that the majority of your food is actually going to come from meat, preferably the fattier the meat, the better. So, we're talking ribeyes, we're talking fatty ground beef, we're talking pork, bacon, stuff like that. Okay, so meat, eggs, whole eggs, with the yolk, that's a big one. And then hard cheeses. So, cheese does have some carbohydrates in it, so you do need to be mindful of that. Okay, but for the most part, the bulk of the calories from cheese comes from fat and protein. So fatty meats, eggs, and cheese are probably going to make up the majority of your diet. You're going to have some leafy green veggies, really any veggies. You can go with any veggies. Now, not all vegetables are created equal, okay? Because some vegetables are going to have a higher carbohydrate content than others, okay? You're generally going to be pretty safe with the green leafy variety. But I mean, I see some people saying, oh, you can't eat onions on keto, and that's just not true. You can absolutely eat onions on keto. You can eat, as long as you're staying below that 50 to 20 grams, as long as you're staying below that, you can eat pretty much whatever you want. I mean, you could, in theory, throw a little bit of bread in there. I mean, you got to keep it low. I mean, because bread's primary fuel, what's the primary fuel source from bread is obviously going to be carbohydrates. But I mean, as long as you stay under this number, there's nothing preventing you from eating anything. And that's just the reality of it. But so meat, eggs, cheese, and veggies, these are going to be your bread and butter. Now, where it gets a little wonky, okay, is when we start seeing is what I call like the other category. Okay, and so this is where, as the ketogenic diet has become more and more popular, more and more companies are coming out with ways in which people can enjoy some sort of close facsimile of their favorite foods, like ice cream, like tortillas, things like that, pastas. They can still enjoy something that's kind of like a close facsimile to those foods, but still keep the carbohydrate levels low enough that the folks can stay in ketosis, right? So this is where we need to get into the discussion of, we're going to kind of expand our discussion of carbohydrates and talk about net carbohydrates, because on these products you'll see a lot of talk about net carbohydrates. And you can do the same thing with some of these veggies that might be higher carbohydrate level, right? So like an onion has, it has a higher carbohydrate level, right? But with the fiber content, it makes the net carbohydrates a little bit lower than what it's like raw carbohydrate would be. And that's the same thing with this other category that I'm talking about here. So to kind of give you an idea of what I mean, I printed some of these out. I couldn't really think of a better way to get this on screen. The app I use for my phone doesn't really do a good job, and it lets me point out some things a little bit more effectively. It lets the flow go. So I printed out some of these. This is a nutrition label. Now this is for a large egg. Okay, so what you'll notice here, and we're going to go right to the carbohydrate section here. Okay, so you're looking for carbohydrate, and you'll see that in one large egg, it has 1 gram of carbohydrates. So 0 fiber, 0 sugars, okay? But the majority of the calories come from fat, then followed closely by protein. I know that there's only 5 grams of fat in here, so don't be confused there. For every gram of fat you have, it produces 9 calories, whereas for every gram of protein or carbohydrates, it only produces 4 calories. So keep that in mind. That's why the bulk of the calories is actually coming from fat here. But yeah, so you see, this is kind of how just general a good ketogenic food will look. Most of the calories coming from fat, followed by protein, and very, very little, if any, carbohydrates. Okay, so now let's talk about some foods that are in that other category. This is something that my wife really likes to cook with. She's been making some really good food with this. These are the Mission Carb Balance tortillas. All right, so we go down to the carbohydrate section right here. Now it says total carbohydrates 18 grams. All right, and that in theory would put us dangerously close. Just one of those tortillas in theory would put us dangerously close to going over that 20 gram mark. Right, we have 3 of these things, and it's going to throw everything. But we look at this dietary fiber number, and that is actually 15 grams. So when we're talking about net carbohydrates, and that's really the important part here, are your net carbohydrates. We're going to take this number, and from this number, we're going to subtract that dietary fiber number, right? And that is actually going to give us 3 net carbs for these Mission Carb Balance tortillas. So really, for every tortilla that you have, you're really only getting 3 carbohydrates, and then a good bit of protein, good bit of fat. Relatively speaking, for basically what amounts to bread. So, like I said, these companies have done a really good job. I mean, these tortillas, if you didn't tell me that they were high fiber, low carbohydrate, low carb tortillas, I wouldn't have known. They taste fine. They do the job well. They make a good approximation of a burrito. I wouldn't have been able to tell the difference. So this is how you need to pay attention to your carbohydrate intake throughout the day. So don't just look at this number, and like if you're tracking your carbohydrates throughout the day, like with a food tracker like MyFitnessPal or something like that, which you should be. You should be tracking your food with MyFitnessPal. I don't think the app does this math for you, so you're gonna have to do this math yourself. That way you know what you're getting. Okay, so again, these Mission Carb Balance tortillas, they are functionally 3 grams of carbohydrates per tortilla because they have so much fiber. And you have to, this dietary fiber, you subtract that because basically your body doesn't digest this. It's not used by the body, so it doesn't affect your insulin levels. It doesn't. It's not utilized by the body. Okay, it doesn't get converted into glycogen, stored in your liver and your bloodstream. Okay, so these can help you stay in ketosis while still allowing you to enjoy some foods that you like. Another example, another kind of food that she likes. This is and it's really hard to say, I apologize, but this is the Rebel ketogenic ice cream. Again, this has 4 net carbs, and so this one's a little bit more complicated because it uses these sugar alcohols, right? Okay, so total carbohydrates 13 grams, okay, but it also has 3 grams of dietary fiber, so we can knock that off, which gives us 10 grams of carbs. But then we come down here and we see the sugar alcohol. Now again, sugar alcohol is something that is not utilized by the body. It doesn't get converted into glycogen. It tastes sweet, but it does not metabolize in the body the same way carbohydrates do. So we get to subtract that from our carbohydrate total. Okay, so we're going to knock out 8, and that's where we get our 4 grams of net carbs. All right, or for the actual carbohydrates that we're going to be factoring in when we factor in our daily carbohydrate intake. Okay, so she says it tastes good. I haven't tried this, or it tastes good enough. I haven't tried this stuff, but yeah. So dietary fiber and the sugar alcohols. Now, not all sugar alcohols are created equal. I know that there's which one is this one they use? Roasted pecans. Where is it? Erythritol right here. So right near the eggs, erythritol. That is the sugar alcohol they're talking about. Okay, and if you're going to look for stuff that's sweetened and it's a low carb ketogenic kind of thing, that's the sugar alcohol you want to use, because that one is, some sugar alcohols out there actually will contribute to your total carbohydrates for the day, but that particular version will not. Okay, and so that's pretty much it. I mean, a ketogenic diet's very simple. Just keep your fucking carbs really low, really, really low. Less than 50, you're probably going to run into less than 20. And you monitor that with the keto pee strips. Basically, you pee in a cup, you dip the little strip in there, and they'll have a little chart, tells you the colors, and it'll tell you how deep within ketosis you are, or if you're not in ketosis at all, right? So that's how you're going to monitor it. These are going to be your primary food sources: meat, eggs, cheese, and veggies. There is a cookbook that my wife is using, and it's great food. It's basically the 5-ingredient keto diet cookbook, and it's the recipes from there. Everything she's made so far has been great. Really enjoy that. I have a link to that also in the description, so if you want to check that out. So pea strips, the keto diet book to kind of give you some ideas, stuff to eat, and so that's pretty much it. Few closing things. Oh yes, here we go. So as you're getting in this process, it could take you up to 2 weeks to actually get into ketosis. So a lot of people find that it takes much less time, but some people can it could, like normally, and if you're eating every single day, it could be up to 2 weeks to actually get into ketosis. There is a fast track way. If you just do a 36 to 48 hour fast, generally speaking, that is, for most people, that is more than long enough to actually just dump you into ketosis. So your body has used up all the carbohydrate stores in your bloodstream, all the carbohydrate stores in your liver, and all the carbohydrate stores stored in your muscle tissue. Okay, once that's gone, your body has to get into ketosis. Your liver has to start creating those ketone bodies, and so that's the quick way to get into it. So if you just want to give yourself a 36 to 48 hour fast, That should knock you into ketosis very, very quickly, and then you can go on eating your ketogenic diet normally. Okay, if you don't want to do that, if fasting is something that's just not for you, then you can eat how you normally breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Just make sure that those meals are keto friendly, right? But yeah, so those are a couple options for you. Just want to give you guys a quick kind of just like basic Cliff Notes intro guide to this kind of keto lifestyle. I know it's popular with a lot of people. People lose a lot of fat off of this diet, so give it a try. I'm looking forward to seeing how my wife does on it. She's done very well in the past. I'm really glad that we're kind of documenting this. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, please leave that in the comments section, and don't forget to give us a like. And just, if you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing. It helps us out a lot. Have a good one, guys. Bye.